Here's a question most people in the diabetes world have never been asked directly. If you stop eating the food that raises blood sugar and your blood sugar goes down, did you fix diabetes? Or did you just hide the problem? Think about a sink with a slow drainage. You turn on the faucet and the water starts pooling. You could turn the faucet down, use less water, trickle it in slowly, and yes, the water level would drop, but the drain is still clogged. The moment you turn the faucet back up, the problem is right there again, exactly where you left it. That is what can happen on a low-carb, keto, or carnivore diet. You eat very little carbohydrate. Less glucose enters your blood. Your A1C falls. You may need less medication. Those gains are real, and they matter. But they do not always mean your cells have learned to respond to insulin again. In many cases, you stopped eating the food that reveals the problem. The problem is still there underneath. Today, I want to look at the science honestly, address the comments that come in every week from people saying keto fixed their diabetes or carnivore cured them, and show you the difference between controlling blood sugar by avoiding carbohydrates and actually reversing insulin resistance so your body can use carbohydrates again. Because those are not the same thing. And understanding the difference may be the most important thing you learn about your health this year. High blood sugar has a root cause, and that root cause has three parts happening at once. First, glucose is sitting in your bloodstream because your muscle cells are not pulling it in efficiently. Second, your liver is releasing extra glucose even when you do not need it because insulin resistance has disrupted its ability to respond to the stop signal. Third, fat has accumulated inside your muscle and liver cells and is physically jamming the machinery that insulin needs to move glucose where it belongs. Avoiding carbohydrates addresses the first part. It reduces the glucose load entering the bloodstream, but it does not touch the second or the third. The fat is still there. The insulin resistance is still there. And the moment carbohydrates return, so does the problem. If you want our free guide on how to address all three root causes and build genuine carbohydrate tolerance, comment guide below. It's completely free. Just comment guide below. Now let's get into the science. We get comments from viewers saying that their A1C has gone down on a keto or carnivore diet all the time. First of all, that is genuinely good news. A1C dropping is meaningful for health. It reflects months of lower average blood glucose, and lower average blood glucose reduces the risk of complications. So yes, that matters. But here is what A1C cannot tell you. It tells you how much glucose was in the blood over the last 3 months. It does not tell you why it went down. And on keto, it went down primarily because less glucose was coming in from food. The load on the system got smaller. Think of it like closing a busy road. Fewer cars means the traffic looks better, but we still do not know if the broken traffic lights were fixed. The infrastructure is the same. We just reduced the volume. Doctors use the word remission when A1C stays below 6.5% for at least 3 months without glucose-lowering medication. A person eating keto may legitimately meet that standard. We should be honest about that and give credit where it's due. But root cause reversal means something more. It means cells respond better to insulin. Muscles take in glucose efficiently. And whole carbohydrate foods like fruit, beans, rice, potatoes, oats can return without causing a large, prolonged rise in blood sugar. The body handles the food differently because the body changed, not just the diet. So the fair answer to that comment is this. You may have reached clinical remission. That is worth celebrating. But A1C alone does not prove that insulin resistance has been resolved. A 2021 systematic review published in the BMJ analyzed 23 randomized trials covering 1,357 people and looked at the effects of low carbohydrate diets on diabetes remission, weight, and insulin sensitivity. Low-carb diets did improve remission, weight, triglycerides, and insulin sensitivity at 6 months. But many of those gains became smaller by 12 months. And when remission was defined without medication, the results were less clear. And here's why that matters. Low-carb diets can help for more than one reason. They lower glucose coming in from food, they often reduce total calorie intake, and they frequently cause weight loss. Weight loss can reduce liver fat and improve insulin action. So yes, some people on keto do improve insulin sensitivity. But here is the critical question. Is it the low carbohydrate doing the work, or is it the weight loss? A 2024 randomized crossover trial tested this directly. 11 people with obesity ate a ketogenic diet for 3 weeks and lost about 5 pounds. Muscle insulin sensitivity improved, but liver insulin sensitivity did not improve, and insulin had less power to stop fat from leaving fat cells. Now, compare that with another 2024 trial. 29 people ate a weight-stable ketogenic diet for 10 days. They were fed enough to keep their weight exactly the same. Their glucose tolerance did not improve. Insulin sensitivity in muscle, liver, and fat tissue did not improve. When weight stayed the same, keto did not repair insulin signaling. When it helped, weight loss appears to have been doing much of the work. The keto diet itself did not show a special power to restore insulin action. Lower glucose and less medication are real. I believe the results, so don't get me wrong. But we have to ask the honest questions. Was insulin sensitivity tested? Was normal carbohydrate tolerance tested? Or were carbohydrates simply removed? The main published Carnivore paper surveyed 2,029 people online and found self-reported health gains and high satisfaction. But it was not a randomized trial. There was no control group. The researchers did not provide the food or verify the health claims. The participants were a self-selected group reporting their own results. That can generate a hypothesis worth investigating. It cannot settle the question of what happened inside muscle and liver cells. The honest answer is this: your numbers may be better, but avoiding carbohydrates does not prove that your body can handle them. And a quiet glucose meter while eating limited carbohydrates is not the same thing as a body that has repaired its ability to process carbohydrates. Here's the part of this conversation that most people in the keto and carnivore world have never heard. Insulin resistance is not caused by carbohydrates. It's caused by fat accumulating inside the wrong tissues. When too much fat builds up inside muscle and liver cells, fatty acids interfere with the insulin signaling pathway. Insulin is still there. The receptor is still there, but the signal does not travel cleanly. The cell stops responding. Human laboratory studies have shown that raising free fatty acids in the blood directly causes insulin resistance within hours, specifically by slowing glucose transport and uptake in muscle cells. And the type of fat matters too. In the CANMU randomized trial, 162 people ate diets higher in either saturated fat or monosaturated fat for 3 months. The saturated fat diet measurably harmed insulin sensitivity. The monosaturated fat diet did not show the same harm. This does not mean one meal causes diabetes. It means the overall pattern matters. A high-fat diet rich in saturated fat keeps constant pressure on insulin signaling even while the glucose meter looks calm because carbohydrate has been removed. You turn down the faucet, the drain is still clogged. A head-to-head study called the KETO-MED trial tested 40 adults with prediabetes or type 2 diabetes. Each person ate a well-constructed ketogenic diet and a Mediterranean-style low glycemic diet for 12 weeks, then crossed over. Both diets improved A1C. Keto did not win on A1C. Keto lowered triglycerides more, but it raised LDL cholesterol, provided significantly less fiber, and delivered fewer of several important micronutrients. Participants also found the Mediterranean-style pattern easier to sustain long-term. So the choice is not between keto and junk food. There are whole food approaches that improve blood glucose outcomes, improve insulin sensitivity, reduce liver fat, provide abundant fiber, and are sustainable over years, not just weeks. If you want our free guide showing exactly what that approach looks like in practice, comment guide below. It's free, just comment the word guide below. The Mastering Diabetes method centers meals around fruits, beans, lentils, intact whole grains, starchy vegetables, and non-starchy vegetables. Total fat is kept low. Saturated fat is kept very low. Fiber is abundant. Here's why this works at the cellular level. Keeping dietary fat low reduces the flow of fatty acids into liver and muscle cells. Over time, the fat already stored inside those cells begins to decrease. As it does, the insulin signaling pathway clears. Insulin's message gets through more cleanly. Cells start responding. A 16-week randomized trial published in JAMA Network Open tested exactly this. Adults with overweight ate a low-fat, whole food, plant-based diet or made no dietary change. The low-fat plant group improved insulin sensitivity. Fat inside the liver and muscle cells measurably decreased. The machinery changed, not just the amount of carbohydrate entering the mouth. In another randomized trial, 99 adults with type 2 diabetes ate a low-fat vegan diet or followed American Diabetes Association guidance for 22 weeks. 43% of the low-fat vegan group reduced their diabetes medication compared with 26% in the other group. Among people whose medication stayed the same, A1C fell by 1.23 points in the vegan group versus 0.38 points in the control group. And in a tightly controlled NIH metabolic ward study, 20 adults ate either a low-fat, plant-based diet or an animal-based ketogenic diet. They could eat as much as they wanted from each diet. On the plant-based diet, participants consumed about 689 fewer calories per day without being told to restrict anything, and lost more body fat even though they were eating far more carbohydrate. That last point directly challenges the claim that more carbohydrate must lead to more eating or more body fat. It does not. Not when the carbohydrate arrives inside whole foods with fiber and water intact. And fiber itself has direct evidence. In a randomized study of people with type 2 diabetes, a high fiber diet promoted the growth of gut bacteria that produce short-chain fatty acids. Those changes tracked directly with better blood sugar control. That is not avoidance. That is a new ability. The body became better at moving glucose out of the blood. The infrastructure changed. And I want you to hear what that looks like from someone who lived it. T came to us with an A1C of 15.5. She was prescribed insulin before every meal and once daily. Within 3 months, she was off all insulin and her A1C had dropped to 7.8, then to 6.5. But here's the part of her story that matters most for this specific conversation. T has a coworker who is on metformin. That coworker eats tiny portions of pasta and pizza to try to keep her blood sugar under control. One day, she saw what T was eating and could not believe it. Here is T telling the story in her own words.
I work with a person who is on metformin, and she eats such tiny little meals, but they're like what I love to eat. The pasta with the Alfredo sauce, the pizzas, they're so tiny. And then she goes, "You're eating a banana? You're eating blueberries? Won't they spike your sugar?" And I say, "I eat a ton of fruits and vegetables every day." And she goes, "Really?" I said, "And I'm not on insulin anymore." And she's like, "Wow."
And then T said something that I think is the most honest summary of what this approach feels like from the inside.
Now, the fact that I can eat potatoes, oh my God, I love potatoes. So I eat so many foods that I love that it's like, okay, it's worth it.
That's the pattern we're looking for. Better numbers, less medication, more freedom, and better carbohydrate tolerance. The body changed how it handles food, not just how much food it receives. A coworker on metformin eating tiny portions of pasta to survive. T eating bananas, blueberries, and potatoes daily with no insulin. That is the difference between managing a symptom and restoring the system. Not just asking, how low was your glucose while you avoided carbohydrates, but asking, how well can your body actually use glucose now? Not only T, but many of our viewers are getting similar results, improving their blood sugar just by following our recommendations. Let's zoom out, because the most powerful message here is bigger than any single diet debate. To every keto, low carb, or carnivore commenter, I want to say this directly. I believe your results. If you lost weight, your insulin sensitivity may have genuinely improved. That matters, and it is worth acknowledging. But a quiet glucose meter is not proof that the system has been repaired. Clinical remission means A1C stayed below 6.5 without medication. That is worth celebrating. But root cause reversal means something more. Cells respond better to insulin, and whole carbohydrate foods can return without the old problem coming right back. The research shows that when keto helps most, weight loss is doing much of the work. When weight was held constant, keto did not repair insulin signaling in the trials that tested it directly. Meanwhile, the low-fat, plant-based, whole food approach measurably reduced intracellular fat in muscle and liver and improved insulin sensitivity through a mechanism that changes the cellular environment, not just the incoming glucose load. Less saturated fat means less pressure on insulin signaling. Less liver fat means less overnight glucose being released into the bloodstream. More fiber means a healthier gut producing compounds that directly improve insulin action. And as insulin sensitivity returns, the same fruit or potato that once caused a large rise starts landing more gently because the cells changed. not just the diet. That is what carbohydrate tolerance being restored actually looks like. Our goal at Mastering Diabetes is not to help you build a smaller food cage. It's to rebuild your body's ability to use carbohydrates. We want your muscle cells acting like glucose sponges again. We want your liver storing and releasing fuel at the right time. We want you eating fruit, beans, whole grains, and starchy vegetables with confidence because your body has the infrastructure to handle them. And please, never change your diabetes medication on your own. Work with your doctor because blood sugar can fall quickly when insulin sensitivity genuinely improves and your medication needs can shift faster than you expect. If you want our free guide showing you how to start improving insulin sensitivity with low-fat, whole plant foods, comment guide below. If this video helped you understand the difference between controlling blood sugar and actually reversing insulin resistance, hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and share it with someone who thinks a lower A1C on keto means the problem is solved. Until next time, keep those carbs high and that A1C low.